Hey, we're on the air. Welcome, folks. We're just getting ready for our first teaching tip live of the term, and we'll be with you in just a moment. We're just setting up the last couple minute things. My name is Owen Guthrie, and this is UAF e-learning and distance education's first teaching tip live of the fall semester 2014. And I'm very fortunate today to be bringing you the lovely and talented Miss Kristen Buffard. She's going to be talking with us today about enhancing video with Popcorn. She's going to explore how to enhance video playback with images, web pages, interactive maps, quizzes, and more using Mozilla's Popcorn tool and API. Kristen teaches the graphics and multimedia course for web for CITS, and she's one of the most senior members of the design team. Without further ado, here's Kristen.
Thanks, Owen. And I'd like to welcome everybody who has joined us live and who is watching this after the fact, too. So what I'd like to do is give you a little bit of background about Mozilla's Popcornmaker and show you what it can do. And then what I'd like to do is do a little bit of a demo and answer any questions. I don't want to spend too much time on the demo because it's not it takes a little bit of time, but I do want to be able to answer your questions. Please feel free to ask questions while I'm presenting here. I like to do things a little informally, if you've never heard of Mozilla's Popcornmaker, what it is a hybrid video editor. And I think it's really exciting for a number of reasons, and I'll get to that in a moment. I came across it initially looking through Mozilla's Webmaker website. And so the Mozilla Webmaker website, what they do is they offer a number of tools for developers and anybody who is interested in learning a little bit more about the web. What they've done is they've created this web literacy map, and I'm showing it up here on the screen, where they really feel like a person who is interacting in today's connected age should be able to have these skills that fall under exploring, building, and connecting on the web. And you can see the competencies underneath there. And what they're doing with their Webmaker website is making the tools and making connections for people very easy so that they can do these things for themselves and within a community. And that's really exciting. Some of the tools that they've put together, you see here X-ray goggles. If you want to see what's going on under the hood of the web, you can easily do that. They have that lets you author HTML pages on the web with a side-by-side view, HTML, and the display view rendered on the right side, which is handy if you're just learning how to code HTML. They've also created Popcornmaker, which is what we're going to talk about today. So that's the hybrid video editor. And they've created AppMaker too, which is a tool to help you make mobile apps. So I'm going to go back to Popcornmaker here because I think it really answers a need that we've seen arise over the past number of years, where the web has been this place where media has been connected and easy to get to and easy to share. But video has been stuck inside of a box, and nothing really permeates that box. So you can't hyperlink in the middle of a video, and you can't put documents in the middle of a video unless you have a video editor, and those edits have been made in-stream inside of the video. So Mozilla has developed their their Popcornmaker tools so that you can not only edit video, but you can include links, you can bring in interactive maps, you can bring in audio, you can bring in images, a number of different types of media that can be played alongside video to give people a more rich and interactive experience instead of just passively watching a presentation or any type of video. So let's take a look at what it can do. For me, what's really exciting about Popcornmaker is that it does have an independent timeline. So if you import video, you can have the video timeline run, but you can bring in any other time-based media. You can bring in a second video or a third video. You can also bring in audio and overlay these things on top of each other. It's a very easy tool to use. So it's a drag and drop interface. Search is integrated directly into Popcornmaker, so you can search for media right inside of the editor. And all of the things that you create in Popcornmaker are remixable. So when you create something and publish it, somebody else can take that and build something new from the resources that you've put together. Some of the things that you can bring into Popcornmaker are YouTube video, of course, and Vimeo video. So you're not just stuck with YouTube video. It'll take HTML5 video as well if you have a direct link. You can import clip audio. If you've ever heard of clip, you can either upload or record audio directly to the clip website, grab a link, and put it into Popcornmaker, Giphy, a service that does animated GIFs. You can import in Flickr images, and also you'll find as we're going through, we'll see how you can add interactive Google Maps, and you can do Wikipedia links as well.
I'm going to hop in real quick, Kristen, and just mention to our viewers, looks like we've got about 10 or 11 folks viewing. If you'd like to, we're all running the Q&A app, and feel free at any time to ask a question of Kristen, and I'll do my best to moderate those. So back to you.
Thanks, Owen. Before we get into the editor, I'm going to show you a few really quick features that may help orient you to what the interface looks like. We talked about media that you can bring in. You can also introduce events into the presentation timeline. So on the screen here, you can see you can add pop-up text. If you remember the old pop-up video that they had in VH1, some of you may not be old enough to remember VH1, but they had their pop-up videos. The pop-up text in Mozilla Popcornmaker looks very much like the pop-up video style
Kristen?
on VH1.
I have from one of our viewers. Is it possible to integrate media from SoundCloud? Do you happen to know?
Yes, you definitely can. You can search SoundCloud, and you can take direct links from SoundCloud and put them into presentations from Popcornmaker.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. You can incorporate just regular text if you want to overlay text. You can bring in Google Maps. The maps that you bring in are interactive, so if you have them playing in the video timeline, viewers can zoom into maps, they can manipulate them, and they can look around in Street View. You can incorporate hyperlinks, so if you ever have a video where you want to send somebody out to a resource that's being talked about in the video or referenced, you can give them a link that opens up another window and sends them either to a website, another video, an audio clip, whatever it happens to be. If you can link to it on the web, you can create a link here over the video. Then the most intriguing feature, the pause and loop features, which seem very innocuous. You can create a pause event, which does exactly what it sounds like. You can pause the video. Okay, so we're stopping the video, but what can you do when you stop the video? You can ask a question. You can have people make a decision. So you can stop everything that's going on and have somebody make a choice. Do they want to continue with this video, or do you want to provide them with a link that goes somewhere else, either in the video or somewhere else on the web? Looping, too, can integrate with this feature. So if you ask them a question about something that's already been covered in the video, you can use loop to send them back to the point where it's been covered in the video so that person can watch it again. So those are events. I mentioned really quickly that Popcornmaker is an open source tool. One of the communities that got excited about Popcornmaker was the journalism community, and what they did was they forked Popcornmaker and they made this kettle corn tool. So if you decide down the road that you like Popcornmaker but you think it's a little flaky and you don't like, for instance, the pop-up text looking like a VH1 pop-up text, kettle corn is a little bit more of a professional interface. It's a little more reliable and faster to work with, and there are a number of enhanced features that this community has made available, particularly undo and redo. So if you're experimenting with these tools, I'd like to make you aware of Kettle Corn as well, because it's a really nice enhancement to the Popcornmaker tool. And then finally, if you find that you're trying out Popcornmaker and it's not quite doing exactly what you want it to do, and you feel like you have good developer skills, you can use the popcorn.js API and do something more advanced. So if you understand coding and you feel comfortable with JavaScript, this is an avenue for you to go down. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that can do toward the end of this presentation.
I'm going to interrupt again. We've had 3 or 4 more viewers join us. So I'm just going to mention to the new viewers who've joined, if you're new to this, you'll find a Q&A button on your screen, and you can ask questions of Kristen or me. And we've also been joined live in the Hangout on Air by one of our fellow designers, Dan Lasota, and I'll briefly introduce Dan. Hello, Dan. Welcome to you and everyone.
Hey, Owen. Hey, Kristen.
Hi.
So as we go ahead here, feel free to interject comments. We have about 15 viewers at the moment, and I'll pass it back off to you, Kristen, now. But please do, if you're watching and you think of a question, please do ask.
Yeah. Thanks, Owen. So that's enough of me talking about slides. So what I'd like to do is take you into Popcornmaker to show you an example and what it's capable of doing. So let me switch windows here really quickly. All right. So what we're looking at right now is the Popcornmaker interface. And this is a video, an enhanced video that I put together, and it has to do with a villa that Mies van der Rohe designed in the early 20th century. So what I did was I pulled in some video from YouTube, and you can see here on the right-hand side, we're looking at the Media tab, and there are videos that I've pulled in as assets. So I could pull any of the videos here into the timeline, and you see that timeline here in the bottom half of the screen. And in the timeline, if you take a look on the left, there are a number of layers. And so if I scroll all the way down, my base video is there at the layer that's second from the bottom, and I have some audio that's right below that. And all the layers that you see on top are events that I've pulled in that are happening as this video plays. So I'm not going to play the video for you, but I'll skip ahead a few places so you can see what it looks like. I have some text popping in. So this is a view of the villa, and as the video plays, we have a website that's going out for more information about this villa, and I pulled in a Google map here on the right-hand side, so you can see a bird's eye view of the home, and if you want to, we could double-click into the map and zoom in and get a closer look at the grounds. We could even move into street view and see what the home looks like from the street. If I skip ahead a little bit, I've added some images. While this video is talking about Mies van der Rohe, I've brought in some other contextual images of him, and I've just placed a link out to more information about him and his reference text in the presentation. I've done the same thing with them. Skipping ahead. As the presentation talks, what I've done is I've added some pop-ups. So details about Mies' life and details about the furniture and home I've added as pop-up text. They're just quick little facts about what the viewer is seeing that weren't addressed in the initial video.
Kristen, well, a viewer, Trish Winters has a question. If Popcornmaker is hosted online, is there any way to download your presentation, your Popcornmaker presentation, that can be standalone and run offline?
That's a really good question, and I haven't seen a way to do that. They do make it really easy for us to embed the presentation into a website, whether it be a blog or another service, or to share a link out, but I haven't seen an option to download the final, I would say, compilation video.
Great.
It sounds like you'd lose a little bit of your activity if you're totally offline, like you wouldn't be able to interact with Google Maps, for instance.
Exactly, yeah.
And quickly, one follow-up question that Trish Winters has is, if you want to include your own video, does it need to be loaded into YouTube or Vimeo to be used in Popcornmaker?
It doesn't need necessarily to be in Vimeo or in YouTube, but it does need to be formatted in an HTML5 construct on a page. So if you have a link to a video that's an HTML5 video, somewhere else down here, so you can see this back in the media tab in the upper right-hand corner, you would just paste it in there, whatever your link happened to be, and Popcornmaker would find that and pull it in.
Great, thank you very much.
We talked briefly about events. I switched to the events tab here just so you can see a little bit more about what is capable here in the timeline. Pretty much what I've pulled into this presentation is a lot of pop-up text. Put a pause in here, so I am asking a question, and I have this particular pause set
through the Onyx and creates a fantastic atmosphere.
Sorry. I just have that pause set for 5 seconds so people can think about the question, then the video continues. You can pause the video indefinitely and have the user take action to progress. So if you want to put a decision point in the video so that somebody watching either has to click a link over the video or hit play again, you can do that. And then finally, just to finish off showing you what this editor can do, I'm going to switch to the Project tab, if you're looking in the upper right-hand corner. And the Project tab lets you add a title and description to your presentation, add some tags, so you can add some metadata and make this more findable on the web. So that's what we're seeing here. I'll switch over to the Share tab so you can tweet out and you can share on Google Plus really easily. And then if you want to embed, it gives you embed code. It lets you change the dimensions of the video presentation you're embedding. And then you can take a look at the source code too if you'd like. So that's the Popcornmaker interface. I'll pause here for a few moments, and what I'd like to do is just pull in, have you watch a demo from the beginning. I'll pull in a few media pieces. We won't make a complete media product, but just to give you a sense for what the process looks like and the media that's pulled in. If you have questions while I'm doing these, feel free to ask. So if anybody has a question right now before I start again, let me know.
Sometimes it takes a few moments if they're using the Q&A app for the Q&A questions to show up. So if we interrupt, we will.
Sounds good. So if you want to start a Popcornmaker project, it takes a few steps to get started if you've never logged in. We're looking at the interface here for a new project. But what it'll ask you to do if you go to the Mozilla site is to sign in with your persona account. And that allows you to connect with a number of different types of identities that you may already have on the web. So, for instance, my account is tied to my Google account. So all I had to do was authorize the persona account to talk to my Google account, and everything, all of my contact information switched over. And now every time I create a Popcornmaker enhanced video, it's saved, and I can get back to it, and I can edit it, which is really nice. Once you're logged in, you see there's a timeline here on the bottom and an empty screen. I do recommend, before you sit down in the Popcornmaker interface, to storyboard out what you want to do. So you'll have a topic, you'll have something of an idea of the project you want to put together, but it's always best to think about the string of events that you want to happen across time, so that when you're in the editor, you're not moving and moving again the events that you're dropping in. And this empty instance of the video 2, you can see right above the timeline, there is a default time that's set. So it's going from 0 minutes, 0 seconds to 30 seconds. You can set the duration of your presentation, this enhanced video, to be as long as you want. This is that timeline that's independent from anything else you pull in. So if I wanted this presentation to be, let's say, 4 minutes long, I could type in 4 minutes. And it's automatically going to make the timeline 4 minutes long. Everything I bring in will fall into that timeline and be editable from there, from each layer. And I'll show you what that looks like. So right now, our target is a 4-minute presentation. And what I'm going to do is pull in some information about Charles Lindbergh and his flight across the Atlantic. I need some media. So what I'm going to do is on the Media tab, I'm going to search for Charles Lindbergh flight. About Charles Lindbergh flies. And that's going to bring me results from YouTube. It's going to bring me results from SoundCloud. It's going to bring me results from Flickr and from Giphy, if there's anything on Giphy too. So you can see the YouTube tab is selected by default. So I can scroll through here and see if these videos are any videos that I'm interested in using.
That's pretty cool. I'm impressed.
Yeah. I already know the video that I want to use. So I'm going to select the first video. One caveat to remember if you're using video from YouTube is that it will pull the ads in too if there are ads in the video. So if your viewers aren't using an ad blocker, they're still going to see ads coming from YouTube. And you can turn them off, but it's something to be aware of. So you can see in the timeline now I have this video, and it's a little bit longer than 2 minutes. You can see the title of the video, and if I just scrub through the timeline, there's the ads. So we can close that. You can see what's going on here. So we have some original footage of the flight. We have some period shots of Paris, because he landed in Paris, we know. He flew from New York to Paris. And then we have some filler footage here. So we have some things to work with, but we can enhance this. And what I'd like to do first, because this is a presentation that somebody else put together, I don't like that opening screen. So what I'd like to do is start with a picture of Charles Lindbergh and a title. So if I want to add a picture of Charles Lindbergh, what I can do, I've already searched for him. I'm going to switch to the Flickr tab and look for what Flickr has found on Charles Lindbergh. So there's one picture of him in his flight helmet. There's the Spirit of St. Louis plane. Let me skip ahead real quick. Oops. The selection is pretty limited, so I'm just going to select the picture of him and his helmet, like so. And I'm going to bring this over to the right. And I can bring in some text. So I brought in an image. If you look at the timeline, there's a layer that's been added to the timeline, and there's a default duration for how long this image is shown. I can pull that layer out on the timeline so it's in the timeline longer. The image will show for a longer period of time. So you have some customization you can do there. And notice too here in the Events tab, I can link this image anywhere in the web. By default, it's sending me back to Flickr, but I can set a link URL that goes somewhere else. I'm going to click back on Events. I want to add some text in here. And notice that there's a new layer that's been created in Popcornmaker. I'm just going to double click to change the text. Oops. So I could have a title. When you're adding text, there's a little bit of customization that you can do. If you look to the right, again, you can link any text that you put into the timeline. You can change the text position, you can change the text alignment. You see those here, but notice toward the top right of the screen there's an advanced tab that lets you format your text. So you don't necessarily have to deal with what they give you. So you can select a new font. I would like mine to be a little bit more sensational.
Kristen, can you, a question from one of our viewers, can you restrict your Flickr and other searches to open source materials?
Not through that particular interface. In that case, what I would recommend doing is going to the advanced search in Flickr, finding the URL to the image you want to use, and just pasting it into the media box in Popcornmaker, and it'll find that specific image.
Great, thank you. So is Popcornmaker using its own search engine, or do you know, are they piling on someone else's? I wonder how they're doing that search.
That's a good question. I would imagine they're using the API for the respective social and cloud services.
Gotcha.
But I'm not sure. Well, I would assume. I don't know, I'm not going to guess. That's a good question. All right, so we have this text here for Charles Lindbergh's Crossing. And this is a little messy, but you could spend more time and make it look nice and tight if you want to. I also happen to know that further on into this video, they start talking about where he flew from, and we know he left from Long Island, New York. And so while they're talking about him taking off, what I can do is I can drop in. What I do here is click the event for Google Maps, and there's the option to search for a location. I'm going to search for Long Island, New York. And just hit enter. Google's going to pull it up automatically, so we see Long Island, New York is pulled up, and we can move this map around on the timeline, or I'm sorry, on the screen wherever we need to. We don't want it to take up the entire screen. We could just make it a sliver of a map. However you want to do it. And like we saw in the example earlier, if somebody's watching this video and they see a map pop up, they can pause the video and they can explore the map further. Or you can just leave the map up and they can explore while the video is playing. We can choose the default zoom if we want to zoom in a little bit more. And I have at the top of my head where the airfield is, but if we wanted to provide a street view of the airfield, we could do that as long as there's a street view available. And then eventually, I'm going to skip ahead, it's not quite that far, they talk about him landing in Paris. We could do the same thing. The video plays for a little bit, they get in their map, and this map is of Paris. We just drop in another map for them. So adding maps is very straightforward. The same thing. We don't want to cover all of the video. And so if I were doing this for a class, what I would do is I would find some of the more interesting points in this video, and I would start asking some questions. I would pause the video, ask some questions. If I were wanting to do something even more complex, what I could do is ask questions and loop back to points in the video or move forward in the video to send viewers to different contextually relevant points of information. So what this video specifically is talking about is his flight over the Atlantic. After he landed, he wasn't exactly sure how he was going to get back. He didn't have any real plan for when he was going to come back to the States. And I happened to have a video recording of him landing. A battleship actually took him back from Europe to the States again. And so I have that audio piece that I can bring in. I'm going to switch back to the Media tab. I'm going to paste in that link. Whoops. And of course, since then I've copied something else to my clipboard, so let's grab that link again. So what I did to get this piece of video was I went to the Internet Archive and I pulled some of their vintage radio broadcasts. I downloaded an MP3 and then I uploaded that MP3 to the Clip website. And then I pulled the URL that you see here into Popcornmaker. I'm going to hit Get Media. It's going to pull that resource in for me under My Media, so I have to switch tabs. And so now, after this video is done playing, what I can do is start playing this radio clip.
Just after dawn on the morning of May the 20th, 1927, Captain
Ladies and
Charles
gentlemen of the radio
began
audience.
to get himself ready.
And of course you have to be careful because it'll automatically start playing again. But we have this new layer. This is, well, it ended up putting it on layer 0 with some of the other events. But we have this radio broadcast that plays now, and if we move our playhead out to that position, you'll notice that our screen is empty because it's just audio now. So as we're building out this presentation, we can add more images, we can search we can query other terms for Charles Lindbergh, we can search for other points in his life, newspaper headlines, we can pull in other pictures.
Live that we're going to be doing over this semester. And next month, on October 16th, we've got Heidi Olson, and she's going to be talking with us about Google add-ons and what they can do to help you manage your workload. I see Dan's still with us, so maybe Kristen will be joining us again in a moment. I've not used Popcornmaker before, but it looks pretty impressive. Any thoughts or ideas, Dan, as we go through?
I was just wondering what kind of course would lend itself, what kind of course content. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking historical reenactments. What would you do in this situation? Put yourself in the place of a general, maybe, or any kind of scenario where you're trying to teach someone a skill, maybe like risk management, and show them. I'd love to really play with some of the branching options, either within the video or go into other ones. And I'd be curious to see if there's any way to tie assessment and track the person's choices as they jump around the video into assessment. Chris, or did you hear my last question there? Is there any possibility of doing that?
So inside of the video stream...
Welcome back, by the way, Kristen.
Thanks. Inside the video stream, there isn't any way to track clicks. So they're not giving any metrics to the video or presentation creator. So there's no way to view that. What I would recommend doing is, if you're really interested in something like that, is thinking about what you're assessing and where you're going to send people so that you can gather that information. So maybe you send them to a Google form where they're taking a quiz, or you're sending them out to a website where you are in control of gathering statistics. I
noticed one of our other senior designers suggests role-playing. It'd be good for role-playing or scenarios, that sort of event. And another viewer has chimed in. So I think the instructor could have students use this for a presentation tool, putting together their presentations, and that seems to make a lot of sense. Whatever they might be presenting on, it's a pretty rich potential there.
I absolutely agree. I think it's really exciting, and because these video products are remixable, I think it's really easy to collaborate on something. So it's not just a creator that can work on a piece, it's a few people that can collaborate on putting something together, and that's, I think, really exciting.
Yeah, at first when I was watching you at first, having never seen it before, I was saying, well, how is this different than, say, something like ScreenFlow, just a video editing software? But it obviously has a lot more potential, and I like the fact that you can so easily bring media in. It's sort of a low price of entry, and the online nature of it is also pretty powerful.
Yeah.
What do you think about bandwidth? What do you think about in terms of, if people have their residential connection speed? Is it still workable off of a low bandwidth connection?
It'll perform as good as you would expect YouTube to perform on whatever connection you're on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't seem to add too much bandwidth, but it certainly doesn't optimize it.
Mm-hmm. So
I'm going to stop showing you this demo, unless somebody has questions about the Popcornmaker interface itself. What I'd like to do is just show a quick example, and it's an old example, but I think it demonstrates some of the interesting things you can do with the Popcorn.js if you're interested in more involved development.
We have a comment from Skip Thaya, who's watching us. Yeah, hey Skip. It says, it hardly seems appropriate to call the result a video, but I'm not sure what you would call it.
Oh, what would you call it? Would you call it a presentation?
Sometimes it takes a while for the response to come through the Q&A side of things.
Well, what would you call it, Ellen?
A presentation, certainly. You're integrating media in a narrative form. I like it. The narrative potential there, I think, is really powerful.
Yeah.
Anytime you add some interactivity, it goes out of it's no longer just a passive video where you sit and experience it. You start using it, almost expecting people to explore different parts of it.
We have another question from a viewer. Is there a way to moderate or curate the contributions of others if there are some, for instance, inaccuracies or poor choices of historical information?
Right. In Popcornmaker, no. So in this interface, you can't gather comments, let's say, or contributions unless what you're doing is sharing your account with somebody who is going to come through and make edits. What you can do is embed this in a website. So whether it be a class website or a personal website, you can embed this media and invite comments and feedback there.
And Skip, I think in response to your earlier question, says back that presentations, he says, are usually as interactive. I think that's what he's saying.
It's interesting that, we all understand that video isn't interactive, and it's exciting when it can be, but we want to call it something else at that point. I guess maybe to be clear, and it's hard too when you're watching a video where there is interactivity or one of these products, so an enhanced video. It's hard to understand the cues that invite interaction. So I think it's a new kind of consumption of media that it'll take a little bit to get used to.
One of our instructional designers has chimed in with the potential name as a visualization.
Oh.
Not another, it's alternative. It occurs to me one nice thing one might do with it is to use it as someone could do a walkthrough, say, and create their own video, say a botanical walkthrough, and then pair that experience where they're finding specimens in the field with specimen photos and descriptions and things like that, like more of a scientific journal.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, that's a really great thing. You don't even have to include any video in whatever media product you create with Popcornmaker. It can be images and audio only, or it can just be audio and text. I think I haven't spent a whole lot of time thinking about all of the possibilities, particularly with the pause and loop. I really think that there's a lot there, and I haven't sat down and really brainstormed an interesting idea, an interesting project to put together, but I think that there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, and Skip, he wrote in that he was saying presentations aren't usually as interactive, and I agree that the one example you showed about the map, giving students the ability to scroll around on a map while you're talking about a historical event, say Gettysburg or you name it, whatever event is associated with geography. That's pretty neat while you're watching a presentation and listening to the audio to be able to scroll around on a map is pretty neat, or noodle around in whatever it is you're looking at.
Yeah. I'm going to use that as an opportunity just to skip to a different screen. We have a short presentation. It's not actually. It's actually pretty long. It's 5 minutes, 6 minutes. Presentation about a sculpture, the Barberini fawn, and I pulled this together with the Popcorn.js API, and it's still under the hood. It's still what is driving Popcornmaker, but you have a lot more flexibility. So what I did was I built an HTML page and brought in the Popcorn library, and I was able to, we see here I have the main video, and within that video timeline are events that are triggered. So as this video plays, we have, again, maps that pop up when they're talking about people involved with the sculpture. There's a Flickr photo set. Anything tagged with the Barberini fawn, in fact, will show up here from Flickr down at the bottom. As they're talking about different things, the narrators in the videos, I've pulled in websites and text from Wikipedia. Not the best. It's not a primary source, but it provides context. And as we work through this video, let's see if I can scrub ahead. The content on the page changes, and I think where you want to have really involved presentation where people are really able to interact with media while a video is playing, I think there's a lot of potential here too. It does take a lot of time to develop, though, compared to Popcornmaker. So if anybody's interested in that, I would suggest just Google popcorn.js. And with that, that's all I wanted to show people today. I invite conversation or questions about enhanced video, and I want to thank everybody for joining.
So we have another question from our viewership here, Shelley Bauman. It'd be interesting to use Google Glass to view a historical site if you have that rich content there.
That would be really great. So create your own video walking from an individual perspective. That would be great to see.
Heidi Olson, go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, I was just going to note too, if you do decide to check out this example, I forgot that I had embedded a quiz at the end of the video. So after you watch the video, you have to take the quiz, and it's just an embedded Google form.
There's a Heidi Olson has shared a link with us for the popcom/fawn HTML. I'm going to see if I can share that via this handy little media sharing device that's supposed to be new to the Google Hangouts on Air. I'm not sure. I think the viewers can see that. It's gone out via what's called the showcase. And I'll click on show item. And I believe now that will be streaming out as well for the viewers. Since we've last used Google Hangouts on Air, they've made two major changes, one of which is a new tool called Showcase, which allows us to share links to live content, and the other is an applause app, which allows viewers to applause at various points during the presentation, and that will be referenced on the YouTube video, so future participants can easily fast forward to Kristen's moments of applause. So I shared that out, the link to the Barberini fawn. I'm not sure what it looks like from the user's perspective, but it says it's available from the user end of things.
Super. And I popped back to the Hangout, and I see that I don't have the option to stop screen sharing, so hopefully I was screen sharing to a reasonable point while I was talking. All right.
I think it was clear from my end of things.
Okay.
So we'll wait for a few minutes while some participants perhaps hopefully chime in with a few questions. I'll turn the Q&A app back on from the command console here. And if anybody has any questions, now's a great time before we let Kristen go. What have you used it for, or recommended it for faculty with? Any other tales from the field, from the front lines?
I haven't had any faculty use it that I've worked with. I've used other Webmaker tools in my class just to enhance video that I've put together where I wanted to include a link and do something really simple, but I haven't put it through its paces as far as an interactive tool yet. So I'm trying to come up with some really looking for something more interesting to do. So it's on the list of things. Ooh, what I did want to encourage everybody to take some time to check out, though, are the rest of the Webmaker tools, because they're really exciting, and it's really exciting to take a look through the website and see what they're doing as far as encouraging learners. Even the lesson plans that they're sharing out for people, the lesson plan construct that they share is remixable, so you can take somebody's lesson plan and totally riff off of it and make it your own and use it for your own class.
Kristen, I see from one of our designers that they weren't able to see the Barberini Fawn URL. Do you have that open in a window that you could share?
Yeah, I do. Let me go. I'm going to do this. So does that screen show?
Yep, I can see the Popcorn.js, and I can see the example URL there just fine. People can navigate their way to that URL. I was just there briefly on my own desktop, and it starts right away with some delightful music. So there you go.
Well, that's from Khan Academy and the Smart History people. So the Smart History people have this really fabulous art history website. And really what it covers is art through the ages, what you would expect on a 200-level art history course. They have lots of tours that they do through museums and then commentary about the pieces that they address. It's really great, and all that's available through Khan Academy.
Cool. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in, so I'm going to let the viewership know that, again, this Hangout on Air is brought to you by UAF e-learning and distance education. Sort of slyly going on behind the scenes, we're also demonstrating Hangouts on Air, which are fairly easy to run, and you could use such technology in your own class to bring outside experts into your course. A question. Remixing raises all sorts of copyright questions. It's a comment on behalf of Skip there. Any thoughts, Dan or Kristen, on copyright questions and remixing?
Well, the things that you can pull into I'm going to call them videos. The enhanced videos for Popcornmaker are all available on the web. So what you have the ability to do then in your project is to link back to the source, and you have the ability to give credit. But you're right, it's still an issue that people have to be very cognizant about and be respectful when you're using content that doesn't belong to you to give people their due credit.
It's also important to realize that as educators you have a lot of leeway under the fair use provision, and that especially if you're critiquing other things, we have whole sections of faculty training on that. At iTeachU you can look up copyright and fair use, and it doesn't take very long to read through, and it kind of covers a lot of the issues that are brought up with that.
But that URL would be iteachu.uaf.edu.
I teach you is in the letter U, right?
It's in the letter U. Yes. I teach, letter I, teach, letter U, .uaf.edu.
You as in you're terrible.
Yes, as in you. So on October 16th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Ms. Heidi Olson is going to be with us and to talk about fighting fat with Google add-ons, how to make your life and job easier using a bunch of handy tools provided by Google. Again, this Hangout on Air is brought to you by UAF e-learning and distance education. It's a first in a series of 4 live Hangouts regarding teaching tips in the fall semester of 2014. Thank you for attending. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to contact UAF e-learning and distance education. One of our designers will be happy to work with you. Thanks, folks. Any parting comments?
Nice job, Kristen. Thanks for the presentation.
Very well done.
Thank you, Owen and Dan, for joining in and adding to the conversation. And all the viewers, too.
Yep. Thanks to everyone who attended, and enjoy that beautiful day out there.